Hello guys and welcome back to .NET in minutes. In this episode we are going to talk about one of the most underestimated parts of building a REST API, error handling. Anyone can make an API that works, but only a real backend developer makes an API that fails gracefully. We'll talk about what good error responses look like, how to use HTTP status code properly, and how to build a clean, consistent structure for your users and clients. Why error handling matters. Let's start with the obvious. Every API will fail at same point. A database connection drops. A client sends invalid input. A timeout happens. The difference between a good API and a bad one isn't that the good one never fails. It's that it fails predictably and with many information. Your goal is to help the client understand what went wrong, not to hide it behind a generic 500 error. Understanding HTTP status code. Let's break down the categories. 200s, success, everything worked, example, 200s okay, 201 created. 400s, client errors, the client made a mistake, example, 400, bad request, 401, unauthorized, 404, not found. 500s, server errors, the server failed, example, 500 internal server error, 503 service unavailable. Using the wrong code is like giving the wrong medicine. It confuses both the client and your future self. The problem with generic. We are all seen this. The API just returned 500 internal server error. That's the equivalent of your doctor saying something's wrong with you and walking away, like in this photo. Clients can't debug that. Instead, you should always return a structured error response that includes details like a message, a code, and maybe a trace ID. Designing a good error response. Here is an example of a clear, professional error response. Status 400. This maps directly to the HTTP code. Error, invalid request. Short, machine readable code. Message, the email field is required. Friendly, human readable message. Trace ID, a unique ID for logging and debugging. When the client sees this, they instantly know what happened and can act accordingly. Using exception middleware. In ASP.NET Core, we can handle exceptions globally using middleware. Here is a simple example. App that use exception handler, error app, run async context.response.status code equal 500, content type equal application JSON, var result equal JSON serialize.serialize, and the rest of the error. And for the final, await context.response.write async result. This ensures that all unhandled errors are cuffed, formatted, and returned cleanly. No more row stack, traces, or HTML exception pages. Validation and client errors. One of the most common error types in APIs is invalid input. Instead of throwing random exceptions, validate early and respond with 400 by request. Return a list of validation errors like this. Field email with a message invalid format, field with password, message too short. This makes the client exception much better. They can fix mistakes instantly. Logging and correlation IDs. Error handling isn't just for the client, it's for you too. Always log errors with correlation IDs. When something fails in production, you can search the logs for that ID and trace exactly what went wrong. Structured logging plus correlation equal real-world debugging superpower. To wrap up, use proper HTTP codes. Return consistent JSON error. Catch and handle exceptions with middleware. Log with correlation IDs. Clean error handling doesn't just make your API better, it makes your team faster. Thanks for listening to .NET in Minutes. See you in the next one, guys. Bye bye.